Hey, welcome back to the Hood Table one more again to all my hoodies. Please come on in, make sure you like and share the video, subscribe to the Hood Table if you are not already subscribed, and feel free to hit that membership button to join our membership. It starts at $2.99. Now, today, you guys, I'm going to update you on a story that's been going on here in our community, in our city, a true crime story that has been going on since about 2020 of July, and we have spoke about this subject over the years. And every time we get some new information, we do come on here and share the updated information with you guys. Just recently, the same person that we have been discussing for the past 2, 3, 4 years was sentenced recently for 2 murders and sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences. That person is John Parks Sr. Now, just to give you a little background on it, because we're going to go through some videos and we're going to take you through the like a timeline, from the beginning up until where we are now. And John Parks Sr., who I said again was convicted of a double murder and sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences, said he committed these murders because he thought the guys that was murdered had something to do with the murder of his son, which had happened a few days before John Parks Sr. committed this double murder. So a few days before that, his son, John Parks Jr., was murdered. So again, we're going to take you through a timeline of all the events that led up to this 2 consecutive life sentences. So again, you guys, please make sure you like and share the video, subscribe to the Hood Table one more again, please and thank you very much. And we're going to get started with a video first showing about the murder of John Parks Jr.
Well, tonight, one man says he cannot believe his nephew is gone.
He tells us someone shot and killed the 20-year-old. It was near 53rd and Boyd this evening.
Sarah Feely has the update from KETV Crime Stoppers.
Family says the 20-year-old was enjoying a Sunday afternoon when he was gunned down. Loved ones scream as police take the body of a man from the yard of a home near 53rd and Boyd. Omaha police say the man was shot and killed there around 2:15. Family says 20-year-old John Parks Jr. was outside the home when someone opened fire.
Just out, riding a dirt bike.
His uncle, Carl Peak Sr., says Parks was in the street when someone in a car started shooting. He says Parks ran through a yard but didn't survive the bullet wounds.
Just was like, it hurt so much,
Peak says Parks was like a son to him. He lived with Parks' mom when Parks was born and remembers helping feed and change him.
It was kind of like my first child because I got to be with him every day. I got to have him every day.
Peak says he was even more proud as he watched Parks become a father himself.
He's a father. He got beautiful boys.
It's those boys and the dozens of family who gathered at the scene Sunday that Peaks hopes to get justice for. Omaha police are investigating this as a homicide. If anyone has any information that can help solve this crime, you're encouraged to call Crime Stoppers. That number is 402-444-STOP, or you can use the mobile app that's P3 Tips. At OPD headquarters, Sarah Feely, KETV, Newswatch 7.
And again, that was the reporting story of John Parks Jr., who was actually murdered in July of 2020. So that was a news story from around that time. Later on, after John Parks Sr., who was out of town, found out that his son had passed, he started traveling back here to Omaha, Nebraska, for, basically the services for his son to be here with his family and be here for his son. So next we're going to see a short clip of John Parks Sr. traveling in his car, listening to music on his way back to Omaha, Nebraska.
I'm on the way. Yep. On the way. Baby boy. Yep. Saw love Facebook. Man. Shout out to the ones that love me. Yeah. Hey, man. My nigga got a song about this bro. We switching this about my son. Oh, shit, I'm laughing, y'all, but man, y'all know I ain't rap type, nigga. And so shit, I ain't shed a tear, nigga. Yeah. And I knew I knew his life, nigga. So, that's what it is. But y'all gotta know whose son it is. That's all. That's all that matters. I know his life, and we insured up, no, so we ain't selling dinners and all that. So I hope you niggas got insurance. I hope y'all got insurance, man. Y'all gonna need it.
So there again was a clip, just a small footage. The video is about 30 minutes long, I believe. He was talking on Facebook during his trip back home to Omaha, Nebraska. Back here, I think he made about 5, 6, 7 videos, listening to music and talking to his Facebook friends and family. Updating people on his road trip as he got closer and closer to Omaha. And as you hear him there, he's basically saying, I'm on my way, baby boy, because he literally just lost his son. He's back on his way back here to Omaha. And he's saying, you know what? We ain't selling no fish dinners. We ain't selling no chicken dinners. We ain't having no car washes. He's insured. But he also said, I hope that, other people are insured as well because they're going to need it. And then the next video that we're going to see right here is basically coverage of another crime that happened a few days later. And that was the double murder of 2 people inside a Best Western hotel here in Omaha, Nebraska. So we're going to go to that clip real quick.
Following breaking news, 2 people found dead at a hotel. KETV News Watch 7's Quinicia Fraser is live at the scene, 108th and L.
Melissa, we just spoke to a captain who told us this happened around 7:30 this morning. I'm going to step out of the scene so you can actually take a look at what we're seeing. You can see that the whole area is pretty much taped off. Again, this is at the Best Western Plus Motel by 108th and M. A lot of police in the area. We saw a forensics investigation van. They're actually still here. Right now, it sounds like police are just trying to find out as much as they can. That captain did not have a lot of information to tell us right now. He said that they are looking for a suspect. They have not identified a suspect just yet, but they do tell us that the victims are an adult man and adult woman. So that's what we know right now. We'll have any updates on our KETV website and mobile app. Reporting live in Omaha, Quinicia Fraser, KETV News Watch.
Breaking here in the metro, a summer double homicide may have been a case of mistaken identity. John Park Sr. is facing 7 felonies, including 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Michael Harbour and Nicole Hatton last July. The 2 were shot to death outside the Best Western Hotel off 108th Street. An OPD detective outlined evidence in a hearing this morning. She says the suspect's son was shot and killed a few days earlier near 53rd and Boyd. It appears he may have saw video on one of the victim's phones and thought it was the shooting of his son. It was later determined that video was from Mexico, and there was no connection to his son's killing.
Now there I showed you 2 back-to-back videos. First short video was showing footage of the crime scene of the 2 people that were killed at the hotel. And then the next video was basically saying that the person who they alleged at the time, committed the crime, it might have been a case of mistaken identity. So we're going to get more into that because the man that they said, which was John Park Sr., the one who was accused of killing 2 in Omaha, wrongfully thought video was of his son slaying. So as the news story reads, inside a Southwest Omaha hotel room, 4 days after his son was fatally shot, John L. Park Sr. was perusing photos of cars on Michael Harbour's phone. The 2 were in the room in the early morning hours of July 30th, 2020, with 2 women celebrating a birthday. Parks thought he saw an image of his dead son on Harbour's phone. A few hours later, when the group went to the hotel parking lot, Parks shot both Harbour, 35, and Nicole Hatton, 36, in the head, killing them. Omaha Police Detective Sherry King testified Friday. And of course, this was in 2020. Parks later told one woman that he would do life for his son. King said, if convicted of the killings, he likely will. That is what they said at the time of the killings. But Parks was mistaken about what he saw. Investigators later determined Harbour had saved to his phone an unrelated video of a man who was gunned down in Mexico. Street signs in the video were in Spanish. Park's son again was fatally shot July 26 in the backyard of a North Omaha home. Parks, 39, will stand trial on 7 felony charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, firearm charges, and a possession of cocaine charge. Parks had been taken into custody in Texas less than a month after the killings and extradited to Omaha in late March. This was 2021. When Parks was arrested in August, Omaha police officials said they didn't think Harbor and Hatton had anything to do with the deaths of Parks' son, John Parks Jr., who was 20 years old, who was fatally shot near 53rd and Boyd Street. Parks Sr., who didn't live in Omaha, had come to the area for his son's funeral, Detective King said. At that point, no one had been arrested in connection with John Parks Jr.'s slaying. It wasn't until December that police arrested 20-year-old DeQuandre N. Perry, whom they accused of killing John Parks Jr. And at that time, Perry was awaiting trial on charges of first-degree murder and use of a firearm to commit a felony in the case. Parks Sr. had a friend reserve a room at the Best Western Plus at 4706 South 108th Street on July 29th. That night, video surveillance showed Parks entering the hotel carrying a drawstring bag. In the bag, King said, was about 90 grams of cocaine, $10,500 in cash, and a 9mm handgun. The other woman told police that she was celebrating her birthday with Hatton. The duo then met up with Harbor, who got connected to Parks, and went to the hotel room about 3 a.m. on July 30th. The woman said there was no altercation or argument. The group drank alcohol and smoked marijuana, and the woman said Harbor and Parks were looking at photos of cars on Harbor's phone, but nothing seemed strange. At daybreak, the group went to Hatton's Mitsubishi Endeavor in the parking lot to retrieve some incense that could match the smell of marijuana. As the woman entered the driver's side, entered the driver's side of the Mitsubishi and reached in to get the incense, she heard a gunshot, then saw Harbor collapse. She then heard Hatton running in heels and her purse jiggling. The woman heard a second shot and saw Hatton fall. Motel surveillance video showed Parks attempting to open his GMC Yukon, but because it was locked, he went to the Mitsubishi. The woman told police that Parks got in the passenger side of the Mitsubishi, showed a black handgun, and told the woman to drive. She drove to 70th and Lake Street, where she got out of the SUV. Parks then drove away. The Mitsubishi later was found by police, the SUV smelling strongly of bleach. A .45 caliber handgun was used in the shooting, according to ballistic tests, but the gun has never been recovered. King said she and the homicide team that investigated Park Jr.'s death discussed the case and potential suspects. Michael Harbor and Nicole Hatton were not anybody that was on their radar, King said. Several relatives of both Hatton and Harbor attended Friday's court hearing. Of course, this was back in 2021. Hatton's uncle, who declined to give his name, said he's thankful the court proceedings are moving forward. He said Hatton loved her 2 kids dearly. I miss my niece, he said. She was a great mother. Now, during that last story that I just read for you, that news coverage, there was a mention of a 20-year-old who had got arrested for the murder of John Parks Jr. A 20-year-old man was arrested Tuesday on suspicion of first-degree murder in connection with a July shooting death in North Omaha. DeQuandre N. Perry of Omaha is charged in an arrest warrant with the murder of John L. Parks on July 22nd near 53rd and Boyd Street. He also is charged with use of a weapon to commit felony. Police were called to the area after receiving reports of gunshots around 2:15 p.m. Police located Parks dead in the backyard of a residence. According to an affidavit filed in Douglas County Court, a surveillance video from a home in the area recorded Parks riding a mini bike southbound on 53rd at 2:08 p.m. A Nissan sedan with dark-colored rims and tinted windows is observed following at a high speed, according to the affidavit. Video from another nearby resident shows the Nissan cutting off the mini bike, and there are audio recordings of 7 gunshots, according to the affidavit. Parks is then seen running between houses towards the backyard where police found him dead. The affidavit said that surveillance video, phone records, and DNA evidence supports the investigators' allegation that Perry was the driver of the Nissan that cut off Parks. The front seat passenger, the affidavit said, fired a small caliber handgun striking Parks. Perry was ordered held without bail Wednesday and is scheduled to next appear in court in February. Parks is the son of John L. Parks Sr., 38. The elder Parks was taken into custody August 26 by the Dallas Area Task Force and U.S. Marshals and is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Again, John Parks Sr. was accused of committing the July 30 slayings of Michael Harbor, 35, and Nicole Hatton, 36, who were found dead at the west side of the Best Western Plus at 4706 South 108th Street. Detectives have said they don't believe Harbor and Hatton had anything to do with John Parks Jr.'s death. Now, from everything that they had on this guy who they had arrested, DeQuandre Perry, I mean, they were talking about footage, they were talking about recordings, they were talking about, witnesses, the car and everything. And then the jury found DeQuandre Perry not guilty of the shooting death of John Parks Jr. Now, based on the news story around that time of April 28, 2022, a jury had acquitted a man charged with first-degree murder in the 2020 death of a man who was on a motorized dirt bike when he was chased down by a car and fatally shot. The shooting death of John Parks Jr. took place in 2020 of July. Perry was charged on December 7th of 2020. The charges carried a life sentence if found guilty. Defense attorney Mallory Hughes said in a news release, our client had his constitutional rights protected by a fair and impartial jury, and we couldn't be prouder of our client and the result. Co-counsel Renee Mathias said in a release, I was so impressed with the jury's attention and devotion during trial, they protected our client's constitutional rights. Barry Law said that Perry was not driving the car or was involved with the shooting. Evidence presented during the trial showed the state was not able to accurately identify the exact car involved or produce solid evidence that would place Perry at the scene or in the vehicle. DeQuandre gets to hug his family today after 2 long years of not seeing them, Hughes said in a statement. We couldn't be happier for him and for the results. Now, I'm sure during that time, the family of John Parks Sr. and John Parks Jr. were both devastated. Because even though John Parks Sr. had been arrested and was also facing life, the police assumed that they had the right person, that they indeed had the right person responsible for John Parks Jr.'s death. And I'm sure the family were looking for a conviction for that person that the police assumed had committed the crime. And then to find out a couple of years later that he was being released and not charged for the crime. So at this time, there's still nobody being held responsible for the murder of John Parks Jr.
Justice tonight for 2 Omaha murder victims. A Douglas County jury convicts John Parks Sr. on all counts. The crime dates back to July 2020. Parks shot Michael Harbor and Nicole Hatton in the head at the Best Western off 108th. Police said it was a case of mistaken identity because Parks thought he'd seen a video of his son's murder on Harbor's phone. The video was from Mexico and had nothing to do with his son. Law enforcement captured Parks in Dallas, Texas, nearly a year later. The jury convicted him in about 4 hours today. No word yet on a sentencing date.
And as we heard once again, John Parks Sr., who was arrested for the murders of Nicole Hatton and Michael Harbor, was actually found guilty last December. And then just recently, he was sentenced to life in prison for the deaths of both of those 2 people.
Sentences this man to life in prison twice over for 2 counts of first-degree murder.
A jury found John Parks Sr. guilty of gunning down 2 people outside a hotel. It was a case of mistaken identity.
KTV News Watch 7 Sarah Feely spoke with one of the families and shares what Parks said in court.
He's just an evil person, and I'm glad it's over with. It's been 3 years, too long.
Dorothy Hatton Scott is talking about John Parks Sr., the man who shot and killed her daughter, Nicole Hatton, in July 2020. Parks also killed Michael Harbor, thinking he'd seen a video of his son being murdered on Harbor's phone. But that video was from Mexico and was not Parks' son.
She was a beautiful, loving person. She worked hard. She took care of family. And Mike, he was a great friend of hers.
In fact, Harbor and Hatton had grown up with Parks, according to Harbor's sister. Parks says he didn't do anything, didn't get a fair trial, and spoke to the family saying, quote, "We can sit here all day and say all the beautiful things about a person, but we know who these people are," end quote. Before the sentence, prosecutors submitted evidence of Parks' time spent in federal prisons, asking the judge to label him a habitual criminal under Nebraska law. Judge Dwayne Doherty did, sentencing Parks to life twice over, plus 80 years to run consecutive to each other.
I'm excited, overwhelmed, and also sad because it's never going to bring Nicole back.
Hatton Scott told the judge she did not know what evil was until she saw Mr. Parks. Harbor's sister called Parks the devil, saying he was Satan's right-hand man, adding, quote, "We've waited for this day for so long, but it truly will not mend our broken hearts, especially when you killed the wrong person." Both families say they will leave this grief in the past, focusing on moving forward for both Harbor and Hatton's children. They say today is justice and victory. Sarah Feely, KE.
You guys, this is a really tragic story. I mean, all the way around. All the way around. And I actually know John Parks Sr. I won't say how I'm affiliated with him, but we actually crossed paths, I should say, many times in the past. Even one time traveling on a road trip for a funeral years ago to Chicago. I remember a time when we went on that road trip and he actually had got into a wreck and had totaled his car out in Chicago. He had drove his car. I was in my car. It was like a caravan. It was a lot of us headed to our funeral. And there in Chicago, he had tore his car up. So on the way back, the people who actually rode with him rode with me on the way back to Omaha. So again, I won't say how we're affiliated or how we're acquainted, but I do know from what I remember, from what I recall, he was like one of the coolest guys you could ever meet. I have to say that. I have to be honest and say he was one of the coolest guys that you could ever meet. Yeah, a lot of us grew up in the hood. A lot of us got involved in certain things growing up, some good, some bad. I'm not saying at all that he was always on the straight and narrow around the time that I knew him, but he's never done anything to me. Nevertheless, it's again tragic all the way around because of the fact if he really committed those crimes because he thought that the man, Michael, was involved with the crime, of his son, John Parks Jr.'s death. And a lot of parents these days, like he even said, I would go to prison. I would go to jail for the rest of my life for my child. A lot of parents are like that. If they really think that somebody was involved in hurting their child in any way, they would want to retaliate. Everybody doesn't, but some parents do. Now, in this case, it seemed, from the police investigation that Michael Harbor had nothing to do with the death of John Parks Sr.'s son. And then the guy who was arrested for the murder of John Parks Jr., come to find out, he wasn't found guilty either. So still to this day, we don't know who actually killed John Parks Jr. And for the rest of his life, John Parks Sr. will be sitting behind bars. So he lost his son. He lost his life. Family members lost a lot on all sides. Michael Harbor, Nicole Hatton, their family lost a lot as well. Again, it is tragic on all sides. This is one of those stories where it's like, okay, we got somebody who probably feel like they won something, which is most likely the families of Michael and Nicole, and then a family who feels like justice might not ever be truly served. for their loved one. John Parks Jr., I remember him as a little boy, the cutest little thing. I mean, I remember him when he was very young, when he was a toddler, around the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, I was affiliated with John Parks Sr. and acquainted with him. So I got to know him. I got to know his child. At that time, I had met the child's mother. We was just in this circle. Omaha is not a big city. So a lot of people are familiar with the same people here in the city. So you mention any name here and somebody, oh yeah, I know them. Or I know their brother, their sister, their mama, their daddy. I work with them, went to school with them. Omaha is not a humongous city. I really hate what happened to him. I really hate what happened to Michael and Nicole. It's just really sad. I hope this isn't the end. I really hope this isn't the end. And when I say I hope this isn't the end, I'm saying I hope that there will be justice one day served for John Parks Jr. One day. Hoodies, please like and share the video. Subscribe to the Hood Table if you are new here. Please and thank you very much. Again, feel free to hit the membership button. Also, hit the subscription button so you won't miss any of our shows. And if you want to, feel free to hit the Cash App, $ the Hood Table 402 for the commentary and the updates of this real, true life crime story based out of here, Omaha, Nebraska. And on that note, stay safe, be blessed, remain vigilant at all times, and always remember to keep it hood. I'm out.